Welcome to the FAFSA Leadership Lounge, where we dive into the policies shaping the work of Florida's school leaders. I'm Michelle White, Executive Director of the Florida Association of School Administrators.
And I'm Jessica Jana Siemens, lobbyist for FAFSA in several school districts across the state of Florida.
The fifth interim committee week took place last week, and it was quite a week last week. Yes,
it was. It was also rather quiet, which is strange, but most of the committee meetings for us in the education world were canceled, and a few that took place have pretty small agendas. The most notable news, I think, probably from last week came from the House State Affairs Committee, where they heard 4 of the property tax bills that the House has proposed. These bills are all pretty similar with only a few tweaks and differences there, and they were all reported favorably at this meeting and will continue on to their next stop. Now, of course, that's no surprise. I think more than likely those property tax bills that are in the House are going to fly through the House. The real question, of course, remains, what is the Senate willing to do?
Absolutely. It would be interesting. Sometimes we see that first day of session where one chamber has their priority bills ready to be passed on the floor the first day.
Yep.
So that will definitely be interesting to see how fast that moves, especially on the House side.
Yes.
So another interesting bill that was heard last week was House Bill 145, which would revamp Florida's sovereign immunity laws, which are designed to shield government agencies from lawsuits. This bill in particular focuses on people who pursue lawsuits over injuries caused by government negligence. The current law passed in 2010 caps the government liability at $200,000 for individuals and $300,000 if multiple people are involved in an incident. If this bill is passed, the cap would increase to $500,000 and $1 million, respectively. The bill still has one more committee stop, and of course, we're going to keep you updated on its progress. This is something that we have been fighting for, it seems, almost a decade.
I agree. That's what I was just about to say. I think it's been a decade of this, and the proposals have really vary over the years. At least this current proposal doesn't seem as dramatic as some. I mean, we saw some where it was, I think, like $1 million per person and maybe even $3 million per incident. So it's certainly something that we're going to have to watch and see if it eventually makes it towards the finish line. It does seem to be moving in the House this year with some speed. So let's move along to this week, and it is going to be a very busy one. At the time of this recording, we'll have bills that we're tracking in 9 committees over the next few days. Among the bills of note that we are watching this week are Senate Bill 320, which is the Administrative Efficiency in Public Schools. That's the DREG 2.0, if you will, that we had as a proposal last year. Didn't really go anywhere last year, but they're back to the table again with that one. Senate Bill 318, which looks at educational scholarship programs and some of the issues, of course, that we have heard being discussed in committee. Senate Bill 124, which is for virtual schools. So we are going to be watching all of these. And also up in the Senate Big Appropriations Committee this week is the Rural Renaissance Bill, which is the Senate President's priority. We know we talked about that last year. Last year, it came out even earlier and, moved through the process really rapidly. It's a little later for it to be in committee this year rather, but we will see. We know it's a major priority for the Senate President. So that'll be up this week too.
Yeah. So similar to the, that House priority on property tax moving through quickly, this may be something that hopefully the Senate does the same, and we'll see what happens at the end and all things shake out. It's also a really good thing that there's multiple people on our policy team now so that we can be in 9 different committees. Things are being heard and we can spread out across the Capitol. So
yes.
It'll be really important when our members are here for Advocate at the end of January to continue to stress the message and talk about all of these issues, of course. So this is the final committee week before the start of the regular session. And the next episode, of course, will have a lot of updates about all of those bills moving and what's going on. So we're going to switch a little bit of gears now and talk about something that we haven't dug into yet, which is special elections.
Yes, we currently have a number that are on the horizon. There are 4 currently vacant House seats and 2 vacant Senate seats here in Florida. The first special election is going to take place tomorrow, which is December 9th. And the rest of these special elections will take place on March 24th, which, for those of you who are thinking about the calendar, that is after the legislative session is due to end. Now, who knows? We know last year went into overtime, so it's possible that maybe we'll still be having something going on at that time. But if all things go as they're supposed to, these folks that are on the up for election on the 24th of March won't be coming to Tallahassee until the next session.
Which, if we could just also pause on the fact that we're going to do a special election in an election year,
Right.
when those House seats are all open for election. So these candidates are going to immediately have to turn around and run again because they're filling a vacant seat that will be up for election in November. So
That's right. That's
a
exactly.
lot of money, a lot of things are being poured into these elections. But let's start with Senate District 11, which really covers a lot of Pasco and Hernando counties. It is currently vacant due to Blaise Ingola for resigning when he was appointed to become our chief financial officer. And this race really has Republican Ralph Masulo, a dermatologist and former 4-term state representative from Lecanto, against Democrat Ash Marwa, a civil engineer from the Villages.
And I think it's fair to say in that race, just looking at the demographics of that particular district, the Republican is heavily favored in that election. Of course, we'll see what happens tomorrow. But as you mentioned, Ralph Masulo is a former House member. He chaired some of our education committees during his time in the House. So if he comes back and is now in the Senate, we'll have to see if he continues on that education path. The other race tomorrow is for House District 90, which is on the east coast of Florida. This includes Boynton Beach and Delray Beach. This seat is vacant due to the death of Representative Joe Casello. The ballot has 3 candidates that are up tomorrow. They are a Democrat, Rob Long. He is currently the Delray Beach Delray Beach City Commissioner. Republican Maria Zach, she's a lobbyist from South Florida, and the NPA candidate Karen Yett is an accountant from Boynton Beach. So we'll see what happens there.
Absolutely. So let's talk about the races for February, March. And we're going to start talking about House District 51. So this district is vacant because Representative Josie Tomkow resigned from office to run for Florida Senate District 14. So the district is in Central Florida. It runs along I-4, just west of Kissimmee, down to about Winter Haven. Stops just before Lakeland.
That's right. And you will probably recognize, our listeners will recognize the name Representative Tomko. She has also sat on education committees during her time in the House, and then also even chaired our pre-K-12 appropriations committee in the past. So for the race for her House seat, former House seat, we have Hillary Holly, who's a Republican. She's running against Edwin Perez, a Democrat. Miss Holly bills herself as a conservative Republican. She's gotten endorsements from the current Agricultural Commissioner, Wilton Simpson, as well as the Representative Tomko herself. So that's always a big, endorsement when you get the person whose seat it currently was, endorsing you. Mr. Perez is from Haines City. He's been an advocate to make northern Polk County a better place to live, work, and raise a family.
Yeah, so House District 52, right next door, is also vacant due to Representative John Temple, a former FASA member. He resigned his seat to become the president of Lake Sumter State College. This district runs from the Villages to Brooksville, and we have Republican Samantha Scott running unopposed in this race. Miss Scott is the marketing manager for her family's plumbing business.
And the last House district that is vacant is District 87. This district is on the east coast of Florida, running from Juneau to Lantana, which is east of I-95. It is also a very crowded field. This election has 2 Democratic candidates and 2 Republicans. So a primary election will be held on January 13th to see who will be up in that general election in March. Representative Mike Caruso resigned from this particular seat to become the Palm Beach County clerk of the court and the comptroller.
Yeah. So on the Republican side, Gretchen Fang is running against John Maples. And Ms. Fang is a real estate agent from West Palm Beach, and Mr. Maples is a financial advisor from Palm Beach Gardens.
In the Democratic primary, we have Emily Gregory, who's running against Laura Levites. Miss Gregory is from Jupiter, and she runs a small business that provides the biggest community for pregnant and postpartum women. And Miss Levites is from Lake Worth, and she is a writer, comedian, producer, executive assistant, and more. Wonderful jobs.
Okay. Well, she might be a little more busy if she gets elected.
That's right. Add one more to the list. That's right.
So the last special election race that we want to cover is for Senate District 14. This covers a large portion of the Tampa Bay area. The seat became vacant in August when Senator Jay Collins resigned to become Lieutenant Governor of Florida, of course. And we will see Brian Nathan, the Democrat, running against Josie Tomcal, who we already mentioned is the Republican running in that seat.
That's right. So we just talked about her former House seat that has had the special election. This is obviously where former Representative Tomko is now running. She is a cattle rancher from Polk City, and she has been in the Florida House since 2018.
So, and Mr. Nathan lives in Tampa. He's a Navy veteran. He is a member of the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, and his work has taken him across the state from military bases to commercial power stations.
So we will definitely keep you updated with what happens with those two special elections that are happening this week, as well as the others that we anticipate in March. In last week's episode, we discussed that there were 5 candidates that are running for governor next year. It turns out there are a few more people running. We have 33 people now in total that have at least filed to run for governor of Florida. Now, obviously, the chances that most of these candidates are going to advance past qualifying or the primary election is very, very slim. More than likely, the field of candidates is going to be the folks that we talked about previously in the podcast, and then maybe if there's any kind of surprise name that enters the race. But we will certainly post a list of everyone running in the description for this podcast in case you'd like to see if any of your friends or neighbors are running for governor. Sorry.
You just never know. But as a reminder, to your point about adding the names of these 33 people to the resources, every episode of the Leadership Lounge now has all of the resources built in. When you go to the FAFSA website, make sure you check those out. It will have all of the bills and everything that we've talked about today. It'll have links for the candidates for those special elections. But we are excited to share what happened this week with you for next week. And make sure to share the Leadership Lounge with your colleagues and read this week's Friday Facts as well. So stay tuned for more.
Thank you for listening to the Leadership Lounge podcast presented by the Florida Association of School Administrators. Today's podcast was hosted by Michelle White and Jessica Janasiewicz. The podcast was produced by Jeff Willoughby. Original musical recordings by David Higgins. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. New episodes are released each Monday. For show topics, suggestions, questions, or comments, please email communications@fasa.net. We hope you enjoyed the show.